Hello, my name is Pastor Kris Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm State Park and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We're reading through the Bible with commentary. We are in the book of Proverbs. We're about halfway through the Bible, and we're about halfway through the book of Proverbs. I have to think about that. Yes, we're about halfway. The first 9 chapters of Proverbs are introductory. They say you should get wisdom and make your mother happy. And wisdom is like a woman calling to you, come be with me. And then the end of Proverbs will have 2 chapters that talk about a woman that is excellent. Who could you find? But in the middle of it, from chapters 10 to 29, is proverb. These pithy, true sayings and observations. Many of them are compare and contrast, the wicked versus the righteous, the foolish versus the wise. And I was thinking about, what are some modern proverbs that we use nowadays? And if I were to be reading them 1,000 years from now, how would we interpret them? So I was driving earlier today, I thought of stupid is as stupid does. And is that not an expression that I've heard people say? Stupid is as stupid does. And how would you interpret that? How would you say, oh, that is, what does that mean? Well, that means that when people do stupid things, then they're stupid. and sometimes stupid people do stupid things, which I think some of these proverbs are kind of saying the same thing, that by folly, a person who has a lot of folly and stupidness, they're just, there's no point even trying to teach them because they're just not going to learn some of the same ideas. So, Chapter 18, the one who lives alone is self-indulgent, showing contempt for all who have sound judgment. I thought, what does that mean? And there's a footnote, and it says the Hebrew is uncertain. So for starters, we're not even sure how to translate this proverb. And there are people in the United States, many people live alone. I am lucky that I have a bed and breakfast. It is now a boarding house. So most of the time we just have housemates, and I've got 2 adult kids who pay to live here and 3 other housemates. So there's 6 of us in this house. And I have to say, living with other people is very good, and it forces us to be accommodating to one another and aware of one another. And the one who lives alone is self-indulgent. Or at least they could just do things the way they want. They can leave a mess or leave it tidy, and nobody's going to make it messy when they left it tidy. Where just the other day we had a text because somebody was up in the middle of the night and somebody else got woken up. And when we live together in a household, in a community, in whatever way, then you have to accommodate and be considerate of one another. So to say one who lives alone is self-indulgent, it could just mean they please themselves. One who lives alone can leave a mess or not, can leave it tidy and it won't get messed up, can leave the temperature, leave the thermostat wherever they want the thermostat. I don't know if that's even self-indulgent as so much as they please themselves. But then showing contempt for all who have sound judgment. I don't know. But of course it says the Hebrew is uncertain, so who knows what that means. I do think that it is good for us that we, meaning we humans, have been designed to live in community, in families, and with other people. And other cultures besides the United States, it is not strange at all to have grandma and grandpa and the kids and the grandchildren all under the same roof. And there's pressure in the United States. Oh, you live with your mom. Well, your mom has a boarding house and charges you to live here. So is it really the same? And I tell them, well, there's one thing to live with your mom when you're in your early 20s. It's another thing when your mom lives with you in your 30s because you're taking care of her, which I hope that my kids will do. And they say that they will, that they're determined to do so. But the main point that I'm trying to get at, it is good to live with other people. And if you live alone, that's okay. But if you live with other people, that's okay too. And we also certainly learn a lot when we have to live with a spouse or parents or children or just even a housemate. We have to learn a lot about being accommodating and caring for one another. That's another one. We're just one verse. We're not going to do that for every verse. At least I don't think so. Verse 2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing personal opinion. So, and I keep coming back to this. I was thinking stupid is as stupid does. But in this case, that a foolish person doesn't even try to understand. They just say their opinion and they don't want to understand anybody else's opinion. Verse 3, when wickedness comes, contempt comes also. And with dishonor comes disgrace. So when people are wicked, we have no honor, we have contempt for them. Verse 4, the words of the mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a gushing stream. So what comes out of our mouth can be very deep, but wisdom is a stream that gives life, for sure. Verse 5, it is not right to be partial to the guilty or to subvert the innocent in judgment. That is definitely not right. If you are the one who in a position to judge, then you should judge rightly. Verse 6, a fool's lips bring strife, and a fool's mouth invites a flogging. Verse 7, the mouths of fool are their ruin, and their lips a snare to themselves. So those two together, the fool's lips are bringing strife, and the lips are a snare, and the mouth invites a flogging, and it's their ruin. So it's what foolish people say that gets them into trouble. Verse 8, the words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body. So a whisperer, I think that's like a gossip. And it's like, whoa, what happened? Why did they leave? Or what happened there? Why is that person, whatever it is? And we can take two little tiny bits of information and link them together and create a story that might not be true at all, but we love to chew on and swallow whatever we can get. At least I know I'm as guilty of that as anybody. Verse 9, one who is slack in work is close kin to a vandal. As I've said before, I'm terrible about having not a lot of respect for slackers. Slack in work is another way of putting it. And I do not mean somebody who is sick and who is in bed because they're sick. That's not a slacker. I'm talking about somebody who is young and healthy and has no reason not to be working. In other words, at least one of my kids currently fits into that category. And I don't think highly of that. And I'm trying hard to find the right gentle way of saying you need to get a job without being the mom who constantly harps on them and pushes and criticizes. But also, I just don't have a lot of respect for people that are slack in work. And even if you have a job, if you're doing the bare minimum, then you're slack in work. But if you have a job and you're like, I'm going to do it by the book, I'm going to do what's right, I'm going to give them 40 hours a week, I'm going to give them 40 hours a week. I'm going to be fair. Because close kin to a vandal, because if you're working and you're not giving them 40 hours a week of work or whatever it is that you've contracted for, then you're stealing from that company. Verse 10, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. And I've titled that as a title of our session today because it's just, and I think I've heard songs about that. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. To rest in the Lord, to trust in the Lord. And when we're righteous, we can go to the Lord and rest in the Lord. Verse 11, the wealth of the rich is their strong city. In their imagination, it is like a high wall. So people that are rich trust in their money and they think it's all good. Of course, we all know you can have a ton of money, but then if your health goes bad or your relationships fall apart, then no amount of money is going to help you get those back. Verse 12, before destruction, one's heart is haughty, but humility goes before honor. So that's kind of backwards. Before destruction, one's heart is haughty, high, nose up in the air, but humility goes before honor. I think sometimes we honor people that are prideful and haughty but many times we do honor those that are truly humble. Verse 13, if one gives answer before hearing, it is folly and shame. Oh, and don't we all want the other person to listen to us before they answer us? Sometimes I talk in long sentences with a lot of preliminary sentences. I'm like, no, I haven't even gotten to what I'm trying to say. These are all just disclaimers or qualifiers or whatever that go with what I'm trying to say. We need to listen before we speak. That would be the modern version. Listen before we speak. Where am I? Verse 14. The human spirit will endure sickness, but a broken spirit who can bear? Oh, and it's, we sometimes get sick and we can bear sickness, but if our spirit is broken, who can stand up to that? It's just heartbreaking. Verse 15, an intelligent mind acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. So wise people look for knowledge and work on getting it. Verse 16, a gift opens doors, it gives access to the great. And this is one of those that's just an observation, and I don't think it's a you need to do it, but it's a recognition that, and it's different than a bribe. When we bring a gift to somebody, sometimes somebody who wouldn't give us access to them or wouldn't listen to us or wouldn't make an appointment with us, and there's all kinds of stories about salespeople and others who have figured out what their target person, that person really wants and somehow gets that to them, then all of a sudden that person that they're trying to make the sale to is a lot more willing to have them come in and talk to them because they received a gift. And it's different than a bribe. It's a gift that opens the door to let us in sometimes. Verse 17, the one who first states a case seems right until the other comes and cross-examines. So prosecution and defense, the prosecution might seem just fine until the defense comes along and then they're like, oh, maybe not. Verse 18, casting the lot puts an end to disputes and decides between powerful contenders. So casting the lot, we're not sure exactly how that was done in ancient biblical times, but somehow they would throw sticks, dice, who knows exactly what they looked like, and it would result in a decision. And so kind of like if you flip a coin, heads or tails, or you roll a dice and say, roll a die, whether it's odds or evens or below a certain number, above a certain number. We don't know exactly how the casting lots went, but casting lots was a way that people could determine what the Lord's will was and just which way it was going to go. Who's going to get the southern area, who's going to get the northern area of the promised land. It was decided by casting lots. So somehow throwing these whatever they were, like dice probably, but different, and in this case puts an end to disputes and decides between powerful contenders. So if you can't decide any other way, you cast the lots, and whichever way it goes, that's what the decision is. Verse 19, an ally offended is stronger than a city. Such quarreling is like the bars of a castle. And again, Hebrew is not clear. They're not sure exactly, but it's definitely not good to offend an ally, because they're going to be a strong city and they're not going to want to to go from being an ally to an enemy is not a good thing. Verse 20, from the fruit of the mouth one's stomach is satisfied. The yield of the lips brings satisfaction. What does that mean? Did that mean something 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago that it doesn't mean anymore? I don't know. From the fruit of the mouth, one's stomach is satisfied. From what you say, from what you do, it does bring food to you. Well, of course, we eat, and I don't know if it's like the food tastes good and that's therefore the stomach is satisfied because it tasted good. I don't think so. I think it's way more metaphorical than that. Verse 21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. So that goes right with the last verse, so maybe they go together. From the fruit of one's mouth, one's stomach is satisfied. The yield of the lips brings satisfaction. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. So if you love having a good tongue and speak kindly and speak words of blessing, then you will get the fruit of those words and of that blessing. And I know a person who just gushes with kindness and affirmations, and it's always fun to go see this person because they just lavish this praise, and I'm like, I don't think I deserve all this praise, but it sure is nice to hear that. And with a person like that, you just want to respond with gratitude and more kindness. And this person has a lot of good things in their life, and I think part of it is because they're very good at being so lavish with their praise and using their tongue in good ways. Verse 22, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. This is verse 18, verse 22, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. So many years ago, when I was married, we used to use this one as a joke because my ex, like many people, would lose things all the time, and I, like many wives, would know exactly where it was. And he would say, oh, where are my keys? And I'd say they're wherever they were. And so we would joke and say, he who finds a wife finds everything, because sometimes the wife is the one who knows where the keys are or whatever else that the husband can't find. And there's so many jokes about husbands look in refrigerators and they can't see it, and the wife comes and it's like right there in the middle of the front of the shelf. My ex wasn't as bad about that, but there's certainly lots of jokes about that, aren't there? And I suspect that that applies to husbands as well, that sometimes they also help wives to find things. But there was a joke that we used to make, he who finds a wife finds everything. But the actual verse, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Because back to the verse 1 of this chapter, if you live alone, you're self-indulgent. If you live with other people, you find good things, and it's good for us to have to live with others. It's okay if you live alone. It's okay if you don't have a husband. But it's also okay, and sometimes a blessing, when we do. Verse 23, the poor use entreaties, but the rich answer roughly. So if you don't have any money, you're kind and you're polite and you're, oh, please. But if you're rich, you don't care what anybody thinks, and you're just rough and rude and nasty. Verse 24, some friends, and we have a footnote that once again, nope, not yet. Part of this is uncertain. I'm not sure exactly what the Hebrew means. Some friends play at friendship, but a true friend sticks closer than one's nearest kin. And I think we talked about that in a previous session. When things go terribly wrong and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, who can you call? Sometimes our family is who we call just because they're family, and it doesn't matter we like them or not. They are our family, and they're the ones that we call. But sometimes we're also blessed with a friend that is so close that they're like family, and we say that that's my sister from another mother, or this is my sister. There's so many words and ways that we express that relationship, this close friendship, and these people, and how much we love them and how much they're there for us. And as a hospice chaplain, sometimes the friends are as good as the family, and the friends are the ones stepping up to do what needs done for this patient. And I had a patient about 6 months ago, wonderful older gentleman who had basically no family, but 2 neighbors who were friends, and the 2 of them were like, yes, we are going to take care of this guy, and we're going to do what needs to be done for him. And it was beautiful. It is such a privilege to see how people are with other people, and the acts of kindness and the things that they do, because a true friend sticks closer than a brother or than one's nearest kin. So if you, what do I want to say from this? If you are lucky to have a friend, then that is a blessing. And if you are lucky to live with other people, you know that sometimes living with other people can be very annoying, but it's also really good for us. So now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace. Like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you again next time.